All right, so this video is going to explain a bit about the Halflight L1 R2 strategy. I've been working on the Dark Souls 3 all boss no hit run, which I've been using the guide that was recently created by some veteran no hit runners. And when I saw this strat being used, I tried it out for myself in practice, and I ended up really liking it. There were a couple of different melee strats that I tried for. And this one ended up being the most comfortable for me, and that's why I've been working on it for a while. And as I've been practicing, there are some things in particular that I really struggled to work out properly. And I made some notes about like the difficulties that I faced in practice. And so I just figured I would put together a short video kind of highlighting the things you need to be aware of and how the fight generally works, or at least how this strat actually works. This is definitely not intended to be, comprehensive by any means. This is just kind of me noting the things that I've learned as I've been practicing this, and I'm hoping that that's enough that other people can feel a little more comfortable pulling this up in practice and trying for themselves. Because I do think that it's a very intimidating thing to do, actually using this strategy, but it works very well when you know how to do it correctly. And that's just the hard part, is figuring out how to do it correctly. So I'm hoping that this will make it a little easier for some people. That's pretty much the goal. So to start off, I'm watching a video that I recorded of me doing a practice session with this strategy, just to highlight some things that worked correctly and didn't work correctly. I'm going to go through and show a successful attempt. It's not perfect by any means, but it works. And I'm going to go back and highlight each major portion of the fight and what's involved to some reasonable level of detail, enough that you can go and start practicing it yourself and have some idea of what to look out for and what to expect. So I'm going to hop around in this video a little bit, and I hope that the, guide is kind of helpful. And let's go ahead and get started. So again, we're going to watch this successful attempt. We'll watch it through once, and then we'll just go back and rewatch it, breaking it down, and then we'll break down each major portion of the fight piece by piece, and I'll try and give some notes along the way. So that's the idea here. Yeah, he stalls here for a moment. That can happen, but now we've got the right opportunity. And there you go. In under a minute, you can take down Halflight. It's a pretty great feeling, but there's a lot involved. So let's go back through it, and I'll try and highlight everything that's going on. The first thing that we do here is we get a backstab on this Painting Guardian. This is the first hurdle. This backstab has pretty specific timing, and you're going to have to practice that quite a bit. It is fairly precise, and getting it wrong can be somewhat catastrophic. So I'll highlight a little bit more about that. But basically, this backstab is one of the biggest hurdles in this fight. Getting the timing down is going to take some practice. But once you get that backstab, you back off a bit. You wait for the Guardian a little bit, and then you run in for the punish. L1, L2, L1. And that takes care of the Painting Guardian. So the next portion of the fight is the damage setup on Halflight. Basically, we are going to take Halflight's health down about 1,100 damage, 1,100 points or so. And that's going to put him right above the point of phase transition, which is great. And once we do that, then we can proceed with the final portion of the fight, which is getting the L1 R2 combo for the death. Dodge the orbs, go in for the punish, back off. 1154 is good. He will phase after you do 1180. That's when that's the break point for his phase transition. So I'll go into, I need to go back and explain something in a moment, but 1180 is the maximum damage you can do. you don't need to maximize that damage. If you're getting roughly 1100, you're in good shape. If you're even just like 1000, 1020, that's still fine. It doesn't need to be super specific right at that breakpoint. You just need some setup. That's what we're going for here. Roughly 1100 is good. I'll go into a little more detail in a second about this. And then, yeah, he stalls a little bit in the final phase, depending on how things play out. So we're waiting for the orbs to spawn in. And we need them to fire off. And now we have a limited amount of time after the orbs have fired off to go in and do this combo. Luckily, everything works out quickly here. But I'll get to more details in a moment. But basically, the orbs have fired off. They've given us a good opportunity. We bait out the weapon art attack. We go in for the punish. And it's L1 R2 and repeat until he's dead. So yeah, if everything works out right, under a minute, pretty nice. Now, before I go any further, and we'll break down each part of that once again, I need to make a note here that, you know, this is kind of a specific build. Like I said, I've been following the all-boss no-hit guide that was recently put out there by some veteran no-hit runners, and hopefully that is linked in the description below, and credit to the guys who put that together, Gino, Swed, and Gio. They did a great job, and they did demonstrate this during that as well. That's what got me to start trying it out for myself. But my build is, you know, pretty much exactly the same. The only difference is I did peach some stuff and dump some extra levels into dexterity at this point. I think it was after Madeir. So I went back and leveled up dex. I think in the guide, dex would have been around 53, 54. And the damage setup on Halflight did not even go perfectly in that instance. So again, I want to emphasize that the levels aren't super specific. You do want this to be high up there, but, you know, you don't need to be maximizing every single soul, every single point of dexterity you possibly can, whatever. A range is good. Somewhere around 50 to 65, you'll be good. 40 endurance, you need the stamina. We use it all. So make sure you're good on that. In terms of inventory, pretty standard. Plus 10 twin blades, grass crest shield for stamina regen. Don't have anything else equipped because you need to manage your equip load, your weight ratio or whatever. We're using RTSR and Pontified Eye. Don't use any more damage rings like Lloyd's. You don't want that because it'll push Halflight into phase transition. Into his phase 2 potentially. And I'd recommend just these 2 rings for damage. The other 2 are for convenience. I'm using Chloranthy plus 3 since we just got it on the way, you know, anyway. And then I have Blood Ring because I'm going to use it in the next fight against Gale. Obviously, that's your preference, but that's pretty much the setup. We use gold pine resin as well. And I don't know why in practice I had this, but I would not have anything equipped between your resin and your bone, just in case anything does go wrong during the fight. You can get a good chance to bone out, but you just don't want anything blocking you from getting to your homeward bone or your, you know, coiled sword fragment as quickly as possible. So keep that in mind. We'll go back to the successful attempt, and I want to break down some stuff. So like I said, the backstab on this Painting Guardian is one of the most precise parts of this fight, and it really is. You're going to have to practice this quite a lot. There is a good visual cue, which was mentioned in the guide as well, and it has been pretty helpful. You watch the ponytail, and it's going to swing down to the left, and once it stops and starts swinging back to the right is when you want to go for that backstab. We'll play it in full speed, and then we'll try and play it in slow-mo to help a little bit. Yeah, so when we're watching the ponytail here, you can watch it swing to the left, and just like a pendulum, it gets to the end, and it starts swinging back right, and that's when I go for the backstab. And again, precise, it needs practice, but you can make it work. So other than the backstab timing, we do this double backstep, and we step to the side a little bit there as well. You want the Guardian to kneel down and do a healing spell, and doing that double backstep and a little step to the side gives enough time for this to all play out correctly. If you start approaching too quickly, it may not work, so that's why we do that. We just need a little delay before running up and finishing with the L1, L2, L1 combo. And that's pretty much all there is to the Painting Guardian. You just need to get the timing down on that backstab too early or too late, and you can see how it plays out. But again, if it doesn't go right, and assuming that you haven't been hit in the process of getting away from the Painting Guardian, get yourself behind a pillar and bone out. You can set up again. But there's really not much room for error on the Guardian. If it doesn't go right the first time, you need to get out of the fight and try again. It's not going to work if you try and do another damage setup on the Guardian. I would just recommend boning out and trying again. But once you're past that point and once you're to Halflight, you can stay in this fight for as long as you want, as long as you don't send him into phase transition. So at this point, if our initial attempt at getting the setup damage does not work, that's fine. We can back off, stay in the fight, set up for another opportunity, and, get ready for that. But with the Painting Guardian, it's not the same thing. So once you are past the Painting Guardian, though, that is the next part that we're at, is Halflight, the damage setup. So you can see, obviously, when he spawns in, he does the spears, and then the orbs will spawn around him. And I set up a little bit further away than what some people do, but that's because I like to sprint on my approach. I'll put it up to you if you want to do that in practice or not. You can get a little closer and just jog around, or you can do what I'm doing, a little bit further away and try some sprinting. But there's some kind of precise timing with making that work. So you'll figure that out in practice, though. But I wait for the orbs to spawn in, and I kind of wait until they're near the end of their, getting, spacing away from Halflight before I start moving. And we do the damage setup. 1154 is great. So that's pretty much what you want. But again, once we're in place and use our resin, I kind of wait until the orbs are pretty far out, and they start slowing down a whole lot near the end. And that's sort of the tell that I use, the visual cue that I use for knowing when I want to start moving. But it depends on your whole setup, your distance, and whether you're sprinting or not. So try and find something that works visually during all of that. But that's kind of what I go for, is watching the orbs. I run around, turn in, and get my damage. If you're jogging, it's the same thing. You just jog past the orbs, turn, and get your damage. But again, it's going to take a bit of practice to get this right. And like I was saying, if that doesn't go right, you can back off, get ready for another attempt, and, you don't have to bone out if the Halflight setup damage doesn't work correctly the first time. Now, like I was saying, if it doesn't go right, that's not the end of the world. I think I have a good example here of that happening. Yeah, I move in too close and he rolls away. So again, I only need to do the setup damage. So I find another opportunity and just do the same combo. Now, I did a really horrible job of getting away from him there. I rolled right toward him when the orbs were spawning. So don't do that. I put myself in a really tough situation there. But the point being, it is possible to get another chance for setup damage if it doesn't go right the first time. And sure enough, even though it was a little close there, we were able to finish out the fight, get the weapon art, punish it, and kill him. So don't freak out if it doesn't go right the first time. If it is the Painting Guardian and that goes wrong, you need to get out. If it's Halflight, as long as you haven't sent him into phase transition, you're good to back off and try again. So real quick, what I'm just going to do is replay this attempt from the beginning. Get our backstab timing. 2 back steps to the side, forward, L1, L2, L1. Get in position, apply the resin, wait to move, turn in, do the damage, back off. Cool. So we're now at the point where we're ready to actually do the finishing combo, L1 R2. That's what we're all here for. So there's a lot going on here. We're going to watch it play out, and then we're going to go back and break it down again, just like we have. But there are a number of things that you need to pay attention to, and I just want to mention that as we wait here for a moment. So you your timing needs to be precise. You need to wait until the orbs have spawned and fired off, and you have a short window after that where you can go in and do this combo successfully. If you wait too long, the orbs are going to spawn again and ruin your day. And you can't rush it because it's just not really possible with this boss. So you got a short window to work with after the orbs have fired off. And that's one thing you need to be aware of is your timing. When you're baiting out the weapon art, you need to give a good amount of distance, and it's typically best to like sprint away from Halflight because that baits out the weapon art that you want. So it's difficult because you need to give space, you need to be running away from him, which gives you even more space, but you need to be close enough to turn in, run up to him, and get ready for the combo without doing a sprinting L1. You can't do that to start the combo. It will not work. So you need to give space, run away from him, turn in, run toward him, stop sprinting, get ready for the combo, perform it correctly, and do all of that in a short window after the orbs have fired off. There's a lot going on here. But again, if you know what to expect and what to try out and what to practice, it's a lot easier to pull it up in practice and actually do it. If you have no idea and you're trying to figure this out, it's pretty tough. So that's a lot of what's involved here, but we'll go through each part of it again. So he's stalling for a bit. It's whatever. Can't really do much with the arrow, with the bow and arrow at this point. So yeah, once the orbs have spawned and they fired off, we now have a good opportunity. And right here I can see he's put his weapon, into its sheath or whatever it is. And this is good. This is a good situation because there's only two possibilities here. If we get much closer to him, he's going to do that really quick flurry attack where he does like 6 slashes very quickly. We obviously don't want that. We want to give a little bit more distance, and then we want to be running away from him. That's a pretty good way to bait out the weapon art attack. It's not the only way, but it is kind of the most controllable and probably the most consistent way to do it. So that's why you see a lot of people like doing this, where they're giving some distance and sort of sprinting away and then getting ready to turn in right away. And that's what we do here. Sprint away, run in, L1 R2. And you just repeat that. You stun lock him, and he's dead. And it happens very quickly, but it's a great feeling when it all works out. So let's go back for a little bit and kind of go through, bit by bit. So again, we're waiting for the orbs to spawn. So once the orbs have fired off, I'm actually not sure if this is correct or not, but it's my understanding that when the orbs spawn in, they'll hover around him for a little bit. And then once they've fired off like that, we've got about 15 seconds until the next set of orbs spawns in. So since we're doing this L1 R2 combo at the very end, that alone takes up about 5 to 6 seconds of our time to actually perform that combo. And the orbs can spawn in during that time if we, are pretty bad with our own timing. So realistically, once these orbs have fired off, if you're practicing this and trying to keep track of it, somewhere around 7 to 8 seconds, and you don't have any more time to really get a good punish opportunity. You need to back off and wait for the next orbs, and then repeat the whole process until you get a good setup. But the orbs have fired off. I know that I've got about 15 seconds here. So I do the combo, back off. That was the setup damage, but he does the Divine Spear spell, and I know that we're not going to have a good opportunity to get the combo in time. So we're going to back off and wait. So we're just waiting for the orbs to spawn in. Again, it doesn't take very long. Once they're in, perfect. They fire off, perfect. I see his weapon in its sheath, perfect. This is a good setup here. This is kind of what you want. So again, now we're given a decent distance, but this isn't quite enough. We probably need to be a little bit more than this in order to bait out the weapon art. So maybe this kind of distance is roughly okay. And if you start sprinting away from him, something like that. So that's what I'm going for at this next portion, baiting out the weapon art. You can see I'm sprinting away from him, and he's about to do it right now. He's going into this little stance before he actually slams the weapon down and does the weapon art. So there's a bit of a visual tell on that, but it's hard to keep track of that when there's so much going on at this point. Just know that there is a bit of a cue with Halflight's motion at that point. So as we're sprinting away, pretty much what I do is immediately sprint away and almost immediately turn to move perpendicular to Halflight the way that he's moving. knowing that, I ideally want to see the weapon art and want to get ready to move in. So it's kind of a motion of I've given distance, I turn away and start sprinting away for a very short amount of time, and I turn perpendicular to get ready for the run up to him. And you need to make sure you stop sprinting in time when you go to start the combo. I mean, like I said, you cannot do a sprinting L1. It will not work. So this is good. You'll figure it out in practice, but you need to run up to him quickly, but not so quick that you're doing a sprinting L1. So once you get the combo started, you're stun locking him and you just keep on going until he's dead. But the hardest part is getting that setup correct. Getting the timing with the orbs firing off. That's one aspect of it. Getting your distance to Halflight and also trying to bait out the weapon art using your distance. That's another aspect of it. Being able to run up real quickly. You want to take this tight line if you can. You can go a little bit further, but too much and you're giving too much time and it's going to go wrong. And obviously too close and you're going to get hit by the weapon art trail on the ground. So you can try and take as tight of a line as you're comfortable with. Make sure you stop sprinting. Do the L1 R2 and repeat until he's dead. Cool. So again, this has kind of gone on longer than I really intended already, and I think I'm getting into a little bit too much detail. I'm hoping that I gave enough that you guys have a good idea of what to look out for. And once more, if everything goes right, this is about what you expect. Good backstab timing. Finish off the Guardian with no issue. Get in position, use your resin. Dodge the orbs, turn into Halflight, do your combo, same one that we did on the Guardian. Back off. Get ready for an opportunity to do the punish. Timing with the orbs. We've got plenty of time. We have good position. We see that he's set up with the sword. He's not dealing with the bow or anything. Bait out the weapon art. Go in for the punish. Repeat until he's dead. There are tons of examples that I had of things that went wrong and to be aware of and yada, yada, yada. But it's going to be much better for you to simply practice that on your own and figure out what does and doesn't work for you. But I hope that that's given just at a roughly high level and with a bit of detail on each important part, all the stuff that's generally required for you to execute the strategy correctly, or at least successfully, let's say. There are things that I can definitely improve and optimize about this for myself, and there are probably things about this that I don't fully understand myself yet, but I'm hoping that this was enough that someone who's not familiar with this strat now knows enough and can feel comfortable pulling this up with a roughly similar build, do it in practice, and hopefully you'll be successful within, not a huge number of attempts, but do it, very frequently. You need to practice this a lot. The timing is very precise. Your muscle memory matters here. And obviously think about, do you really want to do this in your own run? There are other strategies that work just as effectively, but are nowhere near as difficult. And there's nothing wrong with using any of those. As long as you're hitless, that's all that matters in the end, right? So use whatever you're comfortable with. But for those who are interested in using this kind of strategy, I hope that this has been helpful and hopefully shed some light on some things you may have not known, or at least maybe you know a little bit more than you did before that. So yeah, again, hope that was helpful. Hope that was kind of interesting. And feedback, comments are welcome for sure. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for being here. That's about all I've got for now. So I hope that helps. And yeah, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Have a good one.